How are you? Thanks, man, for coming on.
I'm very good, mate. Thank you for having me on. Nice one.
Great stuff. So how are things now that they're opening up? Are people back in the gym? Is your gym opening up properly yet?
Yeah. So we opened back up on I think it was last Monday, the 12th, when the gym's opened again. And it's been going back in overnight. Obviously, the last few months, the gym's kind of just been open for the elite athletes, sort of any UFC fighters or like Cage Warriors signing fighters in our gym. So we've just been going in with like a small group of us and training. But then from Monday last week onwards, we've had the nighttime classes back on, and all the general public and that are getting back into the gym. So it's been a good atmosphere, and I've enjoyed getting in overnight and training there again.
Yeah. So what was it like training then without people, like just yourself and the pros?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was all right because obviously, the way we work is we've got like a fighter class that we all get in every morning, and that's all the pro MMA fighters. And then at night time, we do all the open classes. So like jiu-jitsu and all the kickboxing classes and stuff like that. But I normally get in overnight because the jits class has got a lot of good high level grapplers that come in who just do jiu-jitsu. Do you know what I mean? So I really enjoy getting in and rolling with them because it's just a bit of a different look from the MMA guys. But all my main training partners are the lads that get in every morning anyway. So in terms of that, really, the training wasn't much different, over the lockdown because all my main training partners were in anyway. So
yeah. And for that jiu-jitsu, is that mostly gi or no gi?
I don't do gi, so we just do no gi. There is gi classes on at our gym, but I think I've worn a gi once and I just got tied up like a knot. So I've never really done the gi. It's something I do eventually want to have a go at it. Do you know what I mean? I'd hate to get to like black belt level and never have rolled in a gi. Do you know what I mean? Because we do gradings even in no gi at our gym, so you can get a black belt off Paul, our coach, in no gi. But like I said, I wouldn't want to call myself a black belt and never have rolled in a gi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of purists there that probably wouldn't say you're a real black belt either, isn't there? Like, if you haven't been in the gi.
Well, the way I see it is, I don't fight in a gi, do I? I fight bare chested, so there's not really much need for me to be training in a gi, but it's just a bit of a laugh in it. So I would like to maybe do a little bit more of that, but it's not a priority at the minute. Do you know what I mean? There's so much training I've got to get in already without having to worry about throwing a gi on. So maybe in the future I'll do a bit of that.
Yeah. So how did you actually get started in MMA? Where did the journey start? What got you into?
Started doing MMA when I was about 14. Basically, one of my mates in school, Kieran, was doing it at like a small gym in Southport where I'm from, called the Dog Pit. So I don't really know why, but I was just always interested in fighting. From a young age, like 13 or 14, I just wanted to be able to fight. Not even really to defend myself, just I like the idea of being able to be good at fighting. Do you know what I mean? And Kieran, my mate, was like the hard boy in the school. Do you know what I mean? Because he was the only one really doing a bit of fighting. So I started off. I think I went to a boxing gym first in Ormskirk, which is like round the corner from mine. And I was going there for like 2 weeks, and then spoke to Kieran about it, and he basically said like, "You want to do MMA? Do you know what I mean? You'll swerve that boxing off. MMA is the real deal." So I went down to the MMA gym with him, and it was like a grappling class. And he basically tapped me out about 15 times in like a 5-minute round. So literally from then on, I was just like addicted. I was like, flipping out, what's this? I need to learn this. And then we'd start off like bringing our other mates down to the gym, and I'd start tapping them a few times. You know what I mean? So I was kind of passing it on to them. Yeah. So that's how I got into it initially.
Yeah. Is he still training, or did he kind of fall away?
He dabbles in it. He's like in and out. He doesn't like take it seriously anymore. Do you know what I mean? He's more into football. I think he's like a football coach now at college. But he was the one who got me into it initially.
Yeah. And did you take to the grappling more so even straight away, like more so than the striking? Was it the grappling you enjoyed?
Yeah, I think it's just I trained more grappling than striking though. So from then I was training with Kieran at this small gym in Southport called the Dog Pit. And then one of the coaches there called Carl, he was like in with British wrestling. So he kind of started taking us to like Manchester and Bolton, which like where all the big wrestling gyms are in the Northwest. So then just because of that, because there wasn't many lads turning up to the MMA gym you see to train. So we'd go to Wigan, Bolton, Manchester, stuff like that every night. And I ended up training wrestling predominantly for like probably 4 years or so until I found Next Gen. So I think it's just because I spent more time focusing on the grappling that I took to that more than the striking. But I think if I'd have like put as much time into my striking coming up, I probably would have taken to that more as well. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just a coincidence that I spent more time in the grappling.
Yeah. And then how did you come across then, like, with go joining Next Gen? Was it you just stumbled across that gym, or was that you kind of were looking for a new gym and ended up there?
Yeah, I mean, mate. So another lad then started training with us at the dog pit called Adam Cullen, and I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's pro now. He just signed with Cage Warriors. He's 1-0. And he's from Formby again, which is near Southport, all just outside of Liverpool, where I live. And he was a bit more clued up than me on like UK MMA and like the good gyms and that. And at this age, I think we were like 17, 18 and wanted to start taking it a bit more serious. Because like I said, there wasn't many lads getting into this one in Southport. It wasn't like, there wasn't any active fighters, you know what I mean? It wasn't a very high level gym. So Adam was like, right, if we want to start taking this more serious now, I know about this Next Gen, because he was onto all Paddy and that, you know what I mean? So he said, yeah, we need to go there if we want to start taking it serious. And then I just trusted him, and I'm glad I did. It was a very good decision on his behalf for us to go to Next Gen.
Yeah, good move like that. Yeah, plenty of high level people. It's mad though, like how them like small little decisions can make a big difference. Like if you didn't end up there, like, you know,
Literally, he wouldn't be where I am today, and that's like all down to Adam. To be honest, I just kind of trusted him and went with him on it, because like I said, I was clueless. I was watching the UFC, but I wasn't really paying attention to like the smaller UK scene and stuff. Whereas Adam, he was watching all Bama, Cage Warriors and stuff like that already. So he had a good idea of where the high level guys were around us. Whereas I was just too busy watching like Uriah Faber and that, and thinking, oh, it'd be cool to go trade in California with them. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, thanks to Adam that we found Next Gen.
Yeah. Did you do any other sports when you were younger, or was the first thing you got into MMA?
Yeah, so I played footy and that, like all lads do, obviously from England and Ireland, and that we played a bit of footy, but I was never any good at it really. My brothers were more gifted at football than me, and then I did gymnastics as well. Did gymnastics for quite a few years, and I think that definitely gave me like a good background going into especially wrestling and then MMA. Just because if you think about grappling, it's like the art of controlling someone else's body. Do you know what I mean? Being able to control them and put them into positions that you can dominate them with. And gymnastics is all about having control over your own body. So I think if you've got that background, like sort of flexibility, core strength, like a lot of the attributes that I developed from doing gymnastics, explosiveness from doing tumbling and stuff like that, I think that transfers very well into my grappling and into my MMA game now. So that's a big one. I think gymnastics is what I did when I was younger, and I think that's definitely given me an advantage now coming into MMA.
Yeah, gymnastics crosses over to so many other sports, right? Like when you think about it. So
Literally, it's just being able to control your body well. You see the likes of GSP as well, obviously one of the best MMA fighters of all time, and he started implementing gymnastics into his training, didn't he, later on in his career? Yeah. So if it's good enough for GSP, then it's good enough for me as well. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah, GSP, savage. When did you first start fighting them? Did you have any fights when you started, like as a teenager, or was it more so?
I had one like B contest rules. I don't know what it is. It was like no headshots, just like shin guards on. It's basically a grappling match where you could leg kick. I had one of them when I was training at the gym in Southport, but predominantly competed in wrestling then. So I was like, I've won the British juniors and stuff like that. And I'd done the English seniors and got a bronze medal there and all stuff like this. So I was competing in freestyle wrestling quite a bit. And then my first proper like amateur MMA fight where it was like full amateur rules, headshots and all that, no shin guards. That was when I was 18. And that was when I was about 6 months after I started at Next Gen. Because like I already had a good base. I mean, I'd already wrestled at like British level and stuff like that. And we'd gone round to like boxing gyms, and me and Adam, my mate from Formby, we just went and trained at a lot of different gyms and stuff. So we had like a decent enough base to where when I started at Next Gen, after like 5 or 6 months, I was fighting. Do you know what I mean? So, but that was my first amateur fight. It was against an Irish lad actually called Sam O'Connor, who had like he was from like a Thai boxing background. He was training with Owen Roddy.
Okay. Yeah.
So I remember Owen Roddy being in the corner, and that was my first fight. And obviously, I'd recognised him for being McGregor's corner man. Do you know what I mean? So that was quite cool. I was like fighting against the lad who Owen Roddy was cornering. But yeah, that was my first amateur fight.
Yeah. And then you got in with Cage Warriors then, didn't you? Like Cage Warriors, I suppose Academy, whatever they call it, like they're the amateur kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. My first 2 fights were on like smaller shows, and then after that, all my amateur fights were Cage Warriors Academy, and like most of them were on. I fought on 2 shows that weren't like a proper Cage Warriors, but all my other amateur fights were like undercards of actual Cage Warriors shows. Do you know what I mean? So pretty early on in my career, I was fighting in like the Echo Arena, stuff like that, the Ice Arena in Cardiff, and just being around like actual Cage Warriors production team, being around Graham Boylan and all stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So from like early on in my career, I was getting familiar with all that, and then now obviously I've only had 5 pro fights, but I feel like I've been with Cage Warriors for like, well, I have been with them, do you know what I mean, for literally the last 4 or 5 years. So I feel very comfortable here now with Cage Warriors.
Yeah. That obviously, I'd say that made for a good transition. Like when you did go from amateur to pro, because sometimes it's like that. Well, you're turning pro, but you're looking for fights on maybe a show here or a show there. But like you were already like involved with a well-established promotion that you could just step into there.
Yeah, definitely. It was like a smooth transition because, like I said, all my amateur fights, they felt very similar to my pro fights because I turned up to the venue at the same time that I turn up to the venue now. I was in the changing room with like pro fighters who were fighting later on in the cards. I was sat in there when Graham was giving his like pre-production speech, you know what I mean? So I've been through all that as an amateur, and then when I turned over pro, it just felt the exact same. The only difference was the rounds were a little bit longer and I could throw elbows, do you know what I mean? But other than that, it's all felt the same.
Yeah. How did you find that transition going to the longer rounds?
I prefer it, to be honest. I think one, if you've got like a grappling game, say in an amateur fight you get a takedown a minute and a half in or whatever, you've only got a minute and a half to work because of 3 minutes rounds, do you know what I mean? But at pro, if I'm feeling him out on the feet and maybe I missed the first takedown or 2, by the time that you get the fight to the ground, I've still got 3 minutes to work. So I think for my style in particular, and I also think my conditioning is one of my best attributes, do you know what I mean? So 5-minute rounds, a longer 15-minute fight, I think just knowing I can push that a little bit harder than my opponent, I think that is plays to my advantage more than like a 3-minute fight, do you know what I mean? 3-minute rounds. So
yeah, it's not even in your last fight. It's like you got the submission late into the fight, into the third round. Like we're still strong to get the finish.
That's it. And I wasn't in the best way for that fight, to be honest. I don't know if you heard, but I had like bad food poisoning from after the weigh-ins for that one. So literally it was like shitting myself all the fight day. Couldn't take in any food really at all. So I was still in like a pretty depleted state, and I was able to go out and fight basically a 15-minute fight and still push and get the finish right at the end. So I think that's sort of like a testament to how good my conditioning is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What was it that done it? What did you eat?
Well, so what I think basically, I think basically, I had, sorry, I was sat in front of someone then, but they were trying to sleep and I was talking dead loud, so I'm going to take you upstairs.
Right.
I thought, so that was it. Sorry, what did you say? What did I eat? Yeah. I basically, I took Prep's food with me. This is stupid, and I probably shouldn't have done this looking back now, but obviously in hindsight, I know a lot better, but at the time I didn't think anything of it. So I took Prep's food and I've put it in the fridge in my room at the hotel. Now that wasn't like a proper fridge; it was just a cooler for drinks and stuff like that and snacks. So I've left it in there for like 2 days, and then when I've come to take it out, I've noticed like this doesn't feel very cold, and then I've read on the inside of the fridge, and it said, don't store food in here, basically. So then, but I ate it anyway. Yeah. So stupidly took it out of the fridge, and then there wasn't even a microwave in the hotel. Like they wouldn't let us heat our food up. I think they were just kind of like covering their own backs or whatever. But they had some like strict policy where they wouldn't allow us to microwave our food. So I ended up eating it cold. So it's pretty stupid. Obviously, that's just like I was destined to get food poisoning doing that. But I just wasn't thinking. I just wanted to get as much fuel in me as possible after cutting weight. So I brought all that food with me, so I ended up eating it. But I should have just threw it in the bin straight away as soon as realizing that it hadn't been in the fridge for 2 days. But one of them, we live and we learn, don't we? So
well, you nearly got it over early because like you had these back obviously early in the first round, and nearly had to choke in, and kind of it was nearly the bell saved him, I think, really, wasn't it? Like so.
Yeah, I was a little bit eager. Like every time I got on his back, you can hear the commentators saying it. I was rushing the position a little bit, and before like. So when you're on someone's back, obviously the best position to be is like your chest flat to their back. Like, perpendicular or parallel with anyway. I think perpendicular is that. It's a parallel with. And I was always off to the side a little bit because I was rushing to get under the neck rather than solidifying the position. And it's obviously the rule, isn't it? Always position before submission. But when you're in there sometimes, and obviously I kind of knew in the back of my head, like, am I going to be able to push 3 rounds here? Because I've been in a bad way. I've barely even had a piece of toast this morning and I'm fighting 3 5-minute rounds. So when I got on his back, I was just like, just finish. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was a little bit eager. And then the time I did get the finish right at the end of the fight in the 3rd round, that was because I just adjusted the position first, made sure I solidified it, and then I was able to work and get the choke. So I should have just done that a little bit sooner, but it is what it is. It's all good experience. You know what I mean? I'm glad I was able to go 15 minutes and still get a finish. So
yeah, it was he kind of caught you with a knee in the 2nd round. Was that did it hurt? Were you hurt? Yeah. Or was that just kind of caught you as you were coming in? Were you hurt?
Yeah, I wasn't hurt because when I stood up afterwards, I didn't feel like off balance or anything. Do you know what I mean? My equilibrium was all fine, but obviously shooting in, I thought what had happened was I thought I just shot into his hip and he'd sprawled dead heavy, and I was like, oh fucking hell, that was a heavy sprawl. Like, I'm on my back now. I better work to get back up. But then because I remember going back to the corner and my coach Ellie said to me, like, did that knee get you? You all right? You sound, yeah? And I was like, what knee, lad? Yeah, I'm sweet. Don't worry about it. But like, obviously I watched it back and as well, I got kneed right in the chin. But yeah, it was sort of just like a flash. And then as soon as I like realized I was all right, I wrestled back up, and then I was sweet to carry on.
Yeah. Was that something similar to maybe even the Mitchell fight? Because I think you got kind of caught in the Mitchell fight as well with a
I got caught with the left hand. Yeah. That was a similar sort of thing. I think I was just off balance a little bit with that one. Like, I was stepping to my left and I've crossed my feet a little bit. Just I wasn't set in position when he caught me, so it sat me down. But again, with that one, as soon as I wrestled, because you see with that one again, I got underhooks, wrestled back up, and then I was on him, taking him down, and I felt like, again, I wasn't really wobbled. Do you know what I mean? I've never really been wobbled, to be honest, so I wouldn't really know what that feels like. Like, they're the 2 times when I've been hit with like big shots is those last 2 fights, and even off both of them, getting back up, I felt fine. Do you know what I mean? And after the fight, it wasn't like I had a headache or anything, so I don't know if I was concussed or whatever. So yeah, took them both well anyway. Got a chin on me, and so it's all good.
And came back in the next round and got a finish in both of them as well.
Yeah, literally 2, and they both stood up before I got the finish. So with Lee, he stood up, and obviously he ended up like somersaulting over, and I just managed to stay on his back. And then with Michelle in the last one, he stood up as well. And every time I'm on someone's back and they stand up, I have a little silent, you know what I mean, like a little silent victory to myself, like, yes, I've got this here. Because when they stand up, they expose the neck. So every time someone does that, even in the gym when I'm rolling with people and they stand up, I just think, nice one, lad. I'm going to take your neck now. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I was made up when he stood up as well, and I ended up getting the choke in.
Yeah, because the Mitchell one, yeah. Remember when because I watched it back there during the week, and like, yeah, he was like, you weren't really on the neck until he stood up. You were kind of on the chin, and then he stood up
on the chin,
flip.
Yeah, across his face.
The flip was worse for him because it just looked like by the time you landed, you had got under the chin then. Yeah.
But you see, it's just before you went to flip, because when they stand up, you think about it, when you're standing up, like, everything follows your head. Your head goes first, so your neck comes up. And with Lee, I was still hand fighting a little bit, and then I think as I was like sliding it underneath, he tried to like flip in an attempt to just like shook me off the top. But it was already too late. You know what I mean, the arm was already coming under the neck. So yeah. It was a good fight though, like exciting fight, like, because obviously, you know, you had been dropped and then bounced back up and came straight, because you came out kind of fast in the 2nd round, like it was straight in for the takedown, a bit more pressure. Yeah, I think a lot of that as well was down to there being no crowd. Like in the 1st round, I think I did start slow against Lee, to be honest. And also, I didn't expect him to have such good striking. Like, if you've watched any other Lee Mitchell's fights, he just wrestles everyone. Do you know what I mean? He's just got like a relentless pace, taking people down against the fence. So that's what I was expecting. And then I come out and he's like dancing around the edge of the cage, like good footwork, slipping shots, fast hands. So that kind of threw me off a bit. And then obviously, like I said, there not being a crowd there, I feel like I wasn't quite as in the zone as I normally am stepping into the cage. Like, it just felt a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't quite as, like I say, in the zone, because normally you get a little bit more energy from the crowd when you're walking out, and that switches you on that little bit more. Especially my last fight before that in Manchester, because that's close to home. Sold so many tickets, had like all the crowd there for me. So walking out, I just got like a massive rush of energy. And like as soon as I got in the cage, I was like ready to go and take his head off. And then you take that to the December fight, I'm walking out and it's like dead silent. And I'm just getting in the cage like, oh, this is a bit mad, this. Do you know what I mean? No one in the room watching. So yeah, that was different, definitely. But then going again into the last fight with there being no crowd, I was prepared for that. So I kind of psyched myself up a little bit more in the changing rooms, knowing that like as soon as I get in the cage, I've got to be switched on. I'm not going to get that increase of energy from the crowd this time. So I made sure that like when I was in the back, I was getting a little bit more aggressive with my shots and hitting the pads and getting a good sweat going before I got into the cage, because I needed to be that bit more intense to start fast.
Yeah. Do you have a preference? Do you prefer the crowd or not? Do you prefer the crowd?
I think I do prefer the crowd, but I'm not that bothered by it now. Now I've fought twice without a crowd and I know I can still perform well. It doesn't make that much of a difference. But obviously, after the fight, it's a lot better having everyone there to just go and like see in the crowd and celebrate. And then obviously, like as soon as you win, when you get finished, I like to get on the cage, me. Do you know what I mean? And soak it all in and just be like buzzing, cheering with all my mates that I can see, in the front row and that. So that's definitely a better feeling. But in terms of actually the fight, I think once the bell rings and you're in there, it doesn't make much of a difference anyway. Do you know what I mean? You kind of switched on then. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you have COVID before the? Did you have COVID before the Mitchell fight? Did I see an interview where you were saying that you had tested positive for before that and it drained you a small bit even?
Yeah, well that was so in September I was meant to fight Lee Mitchell last year in September, and I got to the hotel and everything. This was the first event that Cage Warriors put on since the pandemic. Do you know what I mean? The first trilogy.
Yeah.
And I got there and then they were doing like a COVID test with the 24-hour return on it. So I was like, did my test, went and sat in my hotel room to isolate. Get my phone call the next day and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to get out now, go and do a bit of training, whatever. And they say, you've tested positive for COVID and so have all your teammates and that. So you're going to have to wait until you can get picked up and go home. So I was just like, what the fuck? Like, you're messing. And obviously they weren't, and that was the case. So I ended up going home that night, missed out on my fight, watched every fight that weekend, the trilogy that they done at home. So obviously then I was isolating for 10 days because I had COVID, so I had to stay in mine for 10 days. So I was just like proper upset, missed out on the opportunity to fight, watched all these other fights. I mean, seeing everyone else getting to go out and perform, I was just gutted, but it kind of lit a fire under me even more. I was like, right, this next trilogy, I'm going to make sure I go and put on a boss performance and all this and prepare properly for it. So, yeah, I just got right back into training after my 10-day quarantine was up. And then luckily they rebooked the Lee Mitchell fight for December. So in the end, it turned out fine because it gave me a little bit more time to prepare for him. And obviously I was still able to go and get the win over him. So it wasn't too bad in the end. But it was gutting to get so close to a fight. I was actually right down on my weight and everything. Do you know what I mean? It was like a day before the weigh-ins, they told me. And then like, yeah, you can't fight, mate. You've got to go home. So that was a bit grim.
Yeah. Especially like that, it didn't even save you the weight cut. Like, you know, if you were looking at it going, well, look, at least I don't have to cut weight now or something like. But when you've done the weight and you're sitting there going, you've done some of the hardest part, like, you know.
Literally done, yeah, the majority of the hard part. Like in terms of the weight cut, I would have only had to do a tiny bit in water. Do you know what I mean? In the baths because I dieted so well. So I was probably down to like 60. The day they told me I was probably weighing about 64 kilo to fight at 61.8. So I'd basically done the majority of the weight cutting. Obviously, I'd done all the hard training. All that was left was the final little cut and then the fight, which obviously is still no easy feat to fight. Everyone says like, oh, the hard part's done now, go and enjoy myself. But that's a lot of bollocks. The fight's still hard. Do you know what I mean? If you fight a good level of competition, the weight cut's not the easy part of the fights. The fight's hard as well. But sorry, the weight cut's not the hard part. The fight's hard as well. But yeah, it is what it is. Obviously, I'm in a good position now, sitting here 5-0, 5 finishes. I got to fight Lee, so all's well now.
Yeah. Do you cut much weight? Are you someone who cuts a lot of weight to make bantam?
Not a lot, really. No, I'm probably about 71, 72 kilo now. Is what I normally walk around at, and then the closer I get to the fight, I normally come into fight week around 68 kilo. So, but I water load well when I start water loading. Sorry, mate. I'm just gonna put my phone on Do Not Disturb there because I was getting. Can you see me now? I was getting loads of notifications then popping up, so it's winding me up. Yeah, so coming to fight week about 68, so it's not a massive cut. A water load well, so by the time I end up doing my baths, and like last time I literally did 2 goes in the bath and towels, and I was on weight. But yeah, now I'm about 72 kg, so about 10 kg over.
Yeah. How much would you drink now for the water load?
I try and do 8 liters the first day. I do 8, 8, 6, 4, and then I go down to 1 liter for the day before the weigh-in, and then about 20 hours before the weigh-in, or like obviously do a fast then for like just under a day, a fast of no food and water. And then normally I wake up in the morning like early, try and wake. Say even like these ones we were weighing in at 10 a.m, so I was waking up at about 6, half 5, sort of give me enough time to make the weight. And then I only needed an hour. Literally, it took me an hour to do 2 baths and 2 towels, and then I was on weight then. So I just chilled until the weigh-ins.
Yeah. How do you find drinking the 8 liters? It can be tough going, can't it?
Yeah, the water loading's worse than the final cut, I think. Like, it's the maddest thing. You're just sick of drinking water all week, and then it gets to the day of the weigh-ins, and you're like, gasping a drink of water. Do you know what I mean? It's a mad little week, fight week.
Yeah,
but,
like you said, you start off like, oh my God, I have to drink all this water. But by the time you get to the end, you're kind of wishing you had all that. You could drink all that water. You know, like, why was I complaining a couple of days ago?
Really though, it's mad. But I think I hate drinking the water, to be honest. Do you do 8 liters yourself in your water loading?
Yeah, I think yeah. But just maybe just shy of 8 liters. Yeah.
So what do you compete at?
57.
57, and what are you now? What do you walk around at?
I tend to try and walk around about 63, 64-ish.
Oh, that's sound. Yeah, so not too much over here.
I'm probably a bit more than that now, but like there's been no competition. But yeah, so I try to walk around 60, get to 63, 60, walk around 63, 64, and diet down a bit then to maybe 61, and then the week out then try and cut them from 61 to 57, from about 61-ish, 62.
Yeah. So. Nice. That's healthy. I mean, that's what you want to do. The smaller we get, like the lower weight classes, we obviously can't cut as much weight as the bigger guys can, because it's more percentage-wise, it's a lot more of our body weight. So, some of these guys I know who fight at like 70k or 77k, and you hear what they walk around at, and you just think, how the fuck do you make that? Do you know what I mean? But then you've got to remember, for them, like 10 kilos to us is a lot more than 10 kilos to them. Do you know what I mean? Percentage-wise. So
yeah. Do you have anybody who looks after your weight cut, or is it all you just look after it yourself?
My coach Ellis is very good, so I kind of like run everything by him. Do you know what I mean? He's like a master at cutting weight. He's done it so many times himself because he fought pro and had like 12, 13 pro fights and a lot of amateur fights, so he's clued up. But other than that, just like asking him for tips and stuff, I pretty much sort it all myself. I've got like a meal prep sponsor, but I kind of just I don't even really track my calories or anything in camp, you know, because like the amount I train, I know that no matter what, because I'm not like a massive eater inside a fight camp anyway. Do you know what I mean? I don't like to be bloated going into sessions or anything. So no matter what I eat, really, as long as I eat clean, I know I'm going to be in a calorie deficit every day, so my weight just gradually comes down. I've never really struggled to make the weight, so I've not yet gone through the path of like getting a nutritionist or anything. Do you know what I mean? Just because I don't think at the moment in time I really need to do that, because I've got it all boxed myself. But we'll see as my career progresses and I start earning a little bit more money. I might bring a nutritionist on board as well, just to make sure I'm doing everything perfect. But at the minute, I feel like my weight cuts are always smooth. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that is the other side of it as well, isn't it? Is people might think, oh, why don't you work with nutritionists or this or that? It's like, well, like unfortunately, there is a cost to these things as well.
That's it. Yeah, they're not cheap. So if I had the money there, I probably would. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm all for like doing every little thing. I think anywhere you can get a little 1% advantage, you should do it. And pretty much all the money I do earn anyway goes on my fighting career. Do you know what I mean? I'm not buying a flashy car or buying expensive clothes or anything. Any money I do get goes on training and training gear and stuff like that. But I'm not quite earning enough yet to be employing a full-time nutritionist. But one day we'll get there.
So then do you have an S&C coach that you work with, or is that somebody else, like somebody in the gym as well, that looks after that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I got an S&C coach. I go to Peak Performance, which is a gym around the corner from our MMA gym. And they do all sorts there. It's like a CrossFit gym as well, so they've got a lot of like athletes who compete out of them for CrossFit. But the coach there, Tom, who I work with, he's a former pro boxer himself, so he's actually fought, and he's in unreal shape. He's like 43, I think, 44 maybe, and he's in better shape than half the fighters. Do you know what I mean? Like he's absolutely shredded. Still trains every day himself. So Tom's boss, he's proper clued up, and he tests out everything that he has us doing himself. Do you know what I mean? So he knows the stimulus. He knows how sore we're going to feel the next day. He knows how hard we've got to push to get it in. And like I say, he's fought himself. But when he was coming up fighting, there wasn't really any of the knowledge that they've got now in terms of the S&C. It was like go and run 12 miles and do a load of sit-ups and a load of press-ups and stuff like that. So he says now he's so jealous of like fighters today, how good we've got it and how much knowledge we've got compared to when he was fighting, just doing stupid like 12-mile runs and that, do you know what I mean? And not really hitting all the energy systems and that we're getting in now in our S&C. But Tom's boss, he's very clued up. So that's a very good asset, I think. And obviously, like I said before, my conditioning is one of my best attributes. That's all down to him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what I think, especially like coming from boxing. And I've had guys on the podcast as well kind of saying the same thing, that are like, it's especially coming from boxing, you have to get your miles in, like, just get out on the road and just slog it out, like say get your 12 miles in or whatever it is. But it's not necessarily that's even like a good thing, you need somebody who's knowledgeable and knows like what they're doing, and to keep it, just train you specifically for what you want to be doing.
Exactly. And MMA is even different to boxing, do you know what I mean? Because obviously we've got to be strong in grappling positions and stuff as well. So that requires different exercises to a boxer just being able to punch hard repeatedly for 12 rounds. We've got to be able to grapple and squeeze and put on chokes and stuff like that. So there's so many different factors that go into an MMA fight that you need to be making sure you're hitting all of them in your strength and conditioning training. And I feel like I am covering everything with my S&C. So I feel like every time I get in there, I'm not worried about gassing. Do you know what I mean? That's never a doubt in my mind. I know I can push hard in a grappling fight, in a striking fight, or whatever it is for the full distance, because I'm confident that I've got the fitness there from all my S&C.
Yeah, as long as you're not suffering from food poisoning.
That's it. Well, even if I am, I'll still push 3 rounds. Yeah. So I've got that in the back now. I know, like, even if I've got the food poisoning again, I've already done it once. So just bulletproofing the mind, doing that. Do you know what I mean? I'm even more confident going in. Next time when I don't have food poisoning, I'll go even faster because I'll know how hard I could push with food poisoning.
Yeah. Do you do much S&C? Like, how many sessions a week would you do?
Normally do 3 a week. So quite a lot, to be fair, compared to most, I think. I think fitness is so important in fighting. I think you see it too many times where the better man loses because he's not as fit as the other guy. Do you know what I mean? Someone who can just tough it out will beat a better skilled fighter if he's just in there longer, digging deeper. Do you know what I mean? So I put a big emphasis on my fitness, definitely. I think it's so important. Like, obviously skills are what wins fights, but if you've got 2 guys who are similar in skill set and one of them can just push a little bit harder, he's going to win the fight. Do you know what I mean? Especially with like all the adrenaline and things are getting into the cage. Like when you compete, it's different even to sparring, because your heart rate's already that little bit higher starting out. So the more you can get used to that feeling of like a max heart rate and like lactic acid full in your arms, but you're just comfortable there. You've been there so many times. Like I'm there 3 times a week doing my S&C. Do you know what I mean? So that feeling's so natural to me now that when it happens in the cage, I know I can just bypass that and keep going, and my opponent's drowning in there. So, I think S&C is very, very, very important.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's improving all the time. What you're seeing, guys, like as coaches and that become more educated on training specifically for MMA, it's getting better. It's getting better all the time.
Definitely, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So when do you think you'll fight? When do you think you'll fight again? Are you looking to get out on the June trilogy cards?
Yeah, hopefully. That's what I'm aiming for, June. I've not heard anything yet about a match, but I don't see why not. Do you know what I mean? I just had a good win there in March, so hopefully they'll get me a match for that one. That's about 10 weeks away now. It's the end of June, so I've been taking over literally since the last fight. I had a couple of niggles, like my foot was sore off kicking his knee, and my leg was a little bit sore off getting leg kicked, but I've not had any injuries from it. So literally since I took a few days off after the fight, just eating a bit of shit and that.
Has to be done.
But since then, yeah. What did you say?
Has to be done.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. When you're dieting for so long, you've got to indulge a little bit, haven't you? So I've done that, and then since after that, a few days off, I've been training pretty much. back into it full time. Ticking over, obviously, I'm not going mad because I've still got 10 weeks, but I feel like I'm perfectly on track to take a fight in 10 weeks' time. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully get on that June card.
Yeah. How long did if you got offered for a fight for the belt, would you take it?
No, not yet. I don't think. I don't think I would. No, only because when you win the Cage Warriors belt, the next step's the UFC in it, and I do think I could go in the UFC right now and compete with the majority of them. Do you know what I mean? But I want to be world class by the time I'm getting to the UFC, and I'm 23 years old now. Do you know what I mean? That's quite young. It's very rare, especially at today's level. Like obviously you've got Max Holloway and that who went in the UFC very young, and they've developed their career in the UFC, and now they're right at the top of the game. But if you look now, the level that everyone's at in the UFC, entry level is like world class. So I want to make sure that I'm rounding out my game fully and just getting more experience. So by the time I am in the UFC, I'm ready to just run through all of them and get to the belt. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to get in the UFC too early, have a couple of tough fights and get cut. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm all in on this. My plan is 100% to get to the UFC and win the belt. So I'll make sure that I do everything right and don't rush myself. And I think that as long as I carry on the way I'm going, it's all going to happen at the perfect time for me. And when I do get to the UFC, I'll be ready to go and win the belt. Do you know what I mean? So I think just yet, I'd like a couple more fights before I fight for the belt.
Yeah. Because like, as you said, especially the Cage Warriors guys, when they get signed to the UFC, get thrown to the wolves. There's like no easy fight. Like when you're coming from, like anybody who comes from Cage Warriors is straight in. Like anybody, like even just look recently, like Mason Jones was thrown straight into a tough fight. Like Reece McKee.
Yeah.
Obviously it was late replacement, but was thrown straight in with a tough guy. Like as Joey Herbert has been thrown in with tough guys. Like the Cage Warriors guys.
I feel sorry. I mean, obviously, look, Jai Herbert's very, very good, and he's an older guy who's got experience. But do they not like him or something? You know, they've given him that Brazilian fella who's about 40, who no one knows, but he's like a tank. What's his name? The first guy who we lost to.
It was Trinaldo, wasn't it?
Trinaldo, that's the one. So Trinaldo's been around the top for years. He's fought everyone. He's tough as they come, but he's not really got a following. So they give Jai in, and like if Jai beats him, oh, he's a 40-year-old, he's finished. Do you know what I mean? All this, but see how good he is. And now they're giving him Moicano, who again's like not that well known, but he's an absolute killer. Do you know what I mean? So they're like nasty fights for Jai, but Jai is very good. Do you know what I mean? So I think he will go and beat Moicano, to be honest. So the only thing is, if he does, it's like Moicano is not that like highly rated, really, is he, by the majority of people? So it's a tough fight for him. But that's it. Like you say, the Cage Warriors guys, they obviously think highly of them because they just give them the toughest fights. Even like Nathaniel Wood fighting Johnny Eduardo in his first UFC fight. I mean, Johnny Eduardo was an absolute veteran as well. So yeah, you don't get easy fights coming from Cage Warriors.
Yeah, it says that the level that they rate those guys, because you see some people are signed maybe 1 or 2-0, and they're kind of maybe they give them someone kind of similar, but not the Cage Warriors guys straight in. It's like that Mason Jones fight. I would your man's name's gone from me. Like that was a savage scrap, like for
Davis or something, wasn't it? Something Davis.
Davis. Yeah, savage scrap, like for his debut.
Yeah, and he won fight of the night, didn't he? So he got the bonus. So you know what I mean. At least that, like, he's taking a loss on his UFC debut, which isn't ideal, but he's going in against another really good prospect who's probably going to end up being like ranked in the top 15 at some point. They got fight of the night, so we got paid well, and like just the fact that it was a boss fight gets him exposure. Do you know what I mean? So I think that fight only done good for Mason's career. But again, like ideally, come on, give someone a little bit easier for me debut. Do you know what I mean? Try and build us a little bit, but it is what it is. You've got to be ready. That's why I said I want to make sure I'm like 100% ready to go and smoke everyone by the time I do get the UFC, because obviously whoever I get, I'm going to take the fight. Do you know what I mean? And go in there confident. So I'm going to make sure I've got all the experience and everything I need before I get there.
Yeah. Do you have a kind of a set number of fights, maybe just in your head? How many fights do you think it'll take you to get there?
10 would be nice. Do you know what I mean? 10-0 going to the UFC. That sounds nice. But see what happens. I've just signed 5 fights more with Cage Warriors. So if I could get to the end of this contract with the belt, maybe like 1 title defense behind me, do you know what I mean? Or 2 title defenses, that'd be nice. I think that'd be enough time, enough years, and enough like fight experience to sign for the UFC. But we'll see. Obviously, whatever happens. Like I don't know. I could go and smoke someone in my next fight, get offered the belt, and then get signed at the end of this year to the UFC. Do you know what I mean? So it's it is what it is. We'll see what comes. But I'm going to take every fight one at a time and keep doing what I'm doing, keep finishing people, and then see how it goes from here.
Yeah. It probably won't be Jack Cartwright who has the belt, I suppose. By the time you maybe get to it, he's probably going to get the call fairly soon.
I don't see me fighting him, to be honest. I think he's going to get the call. He's like, I think he would have got the call after his last fight if it didn't end the way it did. Do you know what I mean? That DQ, and they're probably not going to sign him off that, but probably one more. I mean, he's like, what, 10-0? And I think he's got like 8 finishes or something. So
he's been beaten as an amateur as well, I think. I think he actually has a run. I think he has a run of maybe 16 undefeated, 10 as a pro. He was undefeated as an amateur as well.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so he's probably going to get signed soon, which then opens up the division, doesn't it, really, to see who's up there. Like, I don't know who. They probably end up bringing someone in for me, I'd imagine, you know, like from a different promotion by the time I'm fighting for the belt, because looking around at the top, there's not many people who I think are like deserving of a title shot really yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that Buland, but he's fought for the belt already a couple of times, and he's about 35, so I don't see them giving him a title shot. So we'll see what happens.
You and Jack, that if that, like, obviously, like you said, it's very, very unlikely it'll happen, but that'd be a big fight for kind of your area in England, like.
Yeah, Manchester versus Liverpool, isn't it? Yeah, so I suppose it would be. Yeah. But I like you say, I don't see it happening. But it's what it is. You never know. He could go and lose his next fight. Do you know what I mean? And then lose the belt, and then try and climb back up. And then by the time I'm there, he's there.
Yeah, something similar. I suppose.
Then, so
something
just
similar.
focused on me. Do you know what I mean? I don't care who they give me. I'm not eyeing specific opponents. I'm just in it for me, focusing on my career. So as long as I keep improving and just taking out whoever they give me, that's all I can do in it, really.
Yeah, that's kind of been unfortunate. It's happened to a few guys, hasn't it? In types of like a Cage Warriors, they've been close, maybe one fight away from the UFC, and then they lose at the wrong time, and it kind of pushes them back. I suppose kind of happened nearly with like Paddy from your own gym. Like he was kind of close, and then took a loss at the wrong time, and kind of pushing back.
But I think that was a good thing for Paddy. Do you know what I mean? I think that was the right time really for him to lose, because he's matured so much and developed so much in the last 3 years. From what you think, when he had the belt, he was 21. So do you know what I mean? Going back, I'm saying I'm 23. I think I'm young to go on to the UFC and like now. He was 21, so if he'd got signed then, that could have been like far too early for him. Whereas now he's 26. I think Paddy is now. He's 26. So he's like perfect going into his prime now as he signed with the UFC. And like the losses didn't do anything to his stock. Like Paddy's still, you see now, especially after signing, he's blown up again. Do you know what I mean? He's got like 100 and odd K followers on Instagram now and stuff. So he's it's like perfect time for him, I think. So that just shows again, like a loss at the time might seem detrimental to your career. Like he had the belt, he was on top of the world, he was going to go to the UFC, but then in reality, that was the perfect thing to happen to him, because now he's a few years older, a bit more mature, and even more ready to go to the UFC, and he's still just as big of a name as he was when he was 21.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like you're 23, and you know, like Jon Jones was UFC champion at 23. You know what I mean? Like that's what that's what I think.
Crazy, isn't it?
Like you said, like you are young, like, and like there is no reason to be rushing, but just like the fact that he got in and the tear he went on to be champion is like they just serious, like
serious athlete, isn't he? Jon Jones, he's a freak. But again, like obviously I'm not taking anything away from Jon Jones. He's the absolute GOAT, but the level is different now, even to then. Do you know what I mean? I know you can say the greats that he took out, but you actually look at the skill sets of them and take away the names from them compared to the fighters nowadays. Like they aren't anywhere near the level of what entry level UFC guys are like now. Do you know what I mean? Like every year you see more and more people coming through. Like you look at the prelims now in most UFCs, and the guys are so high level, and they're not even ranked. You know what I mean? You never even heard of them, but they're like world class. So yeah, it's just the sport's growing so much.
Yeah, but like that, it was even GSP said he was on Joe Rogan, like, and he said it even a couple of other interviews, like that people just get better. Like the people who started, like Hoist Gracie wouldn't have a chance today, but like was the best at that time. And then the guys like that Jon Jones would have beaten, they were the best at their time, but they wouldn't stand a chance now. And the guys now won't stand the chance to the guys in 5 to 10 years, you know.
Yeah.
And the guys, it just gets
Just the
better
way
and
it
better.
goes, isn't it? Yeah.
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 It's
Especially with MMA, where it's such a young sport. Do you know what I mean? So literally we're seeing the massive leaps now. It'll start leveling out a little bit as the sport gets, as the sport ages a bit. But right now we're still in the early stages. Do you know what I mean? Especially like in terms of it becoming a worldwide sport, more and more now in England and in Europe, MMA's getting bigger. Whereas for like the last sort of 10 years, it's been America and Brazil that dominated the UFC, isn't it really? So now the European scene's booming. Imagine in like 10 years' time. So yeah, it's just crazy to think. That's why you can't be one of these fighters who goes and fights and then takes like a few months off and doesn't train and doesn't improve, because there's like kids in Russia now that are like 12, 13 that are like probably well better than me in terms of skill sets. Do you know what I mean? It's scary, but I've got to like stay on it and make sure these kids don't catch us. So it's it's frightening, but it makes me want to get the gym every single day and keep getting better. Do you know what I mean? Because I know what's coming for us around the corner. So
them Russians like a different breed, like, aren't they? That's like the new hub, like you said. It was like, obviously America has always been there, and then it was like Brazil was kind of like the second one, like where they had so many champions and they had that mix of jiu-jitsu and boxing. But now it seems like that, like you said, like Russia is kind of taking over that because they have a lot of that wrestling background. So like they're
wrestling. What do you think it is other than that? Do you think it's the mindset of the Russians that's a little bit different, or what? Like, what do you think sets them apart from everyone else? Because they seem to be like starting to take over now a little bit, don't they?
Yeah, I think it is probably the mindset maybe the mindset is that hard mindset can kind of be bred into them a little bit younger than it is
into us over there. Yeah. But that's not to say that we can't develop it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm always like. Yeah, that's what I'm very into, is like hardening the mind, because I think fighting is so much mental. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously you've got to have a certain level of athleticism and you've got to be able to perform the techniques. But once you get to that level, what separates the best from the champions is literally like your mindset, isn't it? And how far you're willing to go, how much time you're willing to put in. So I try and adopt a little bit of the Russian mindset, me training. Do you know what I mean? That stoic mindset, just getting it done, getting in every day, and just it's crazy. It is. They are a tough bunch, but I'm trying to be as much Russian as possible. Do you know what I mean?
Channel that inner Russian, that inner Ruski.
That's it, lad. Yeah, that's why I shaved my head. I look a little bit more Eastern European with a shaved head. I used to have a big fringe, but going for the Russian look now. The
Khabib look.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I just need to grow a beard, but I can't really grow any facial hair yet, so I have to wait a few years. Maybe by the time I'm in the UFC, I'll have a little beard going as well.
Yeah, coming from that, and we're coming with that wrestle heavy kind of style as well, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
all your wins are submissions, aren't they? Like,
all but one. Yeah, I've got one TKO, but it comes from like a grappling position. Do you know what I mean? I got him in the Dagestani handcuff position. That's what they call it now, and where you kind of
behind his back, and it was
and then we strikes. But that was obviously, it was a TKO, but it was a grappling TKO. It was my grappling that allowed me to get the strikes off. Do you know what I mean? So all my fights I've won with using my grappling so far.
Yeah. You kind of dropped him with a leg kick, I think, there first, was it? And then that kind of started the exchange.
Yeah. I was calf kicking him a few times, and then he was like bouncing back and forth, I think, trying to like test his leg out. And as I caught him, as he like stepped in, I kicked the leg out and it swept him nice. And then I ended up like throwing shots, but stepping into a clinch with it. So I just thought, I may as well end up taking him down and go into the grappling.
Yeah. I suppose, look, just before we finish up, I tend to ask everybody, if you had to pick a favorite fighter that you would like to watch, who would it be?
Favorite fighter? Okay, let me have a think.
Maybe it
I was liking.
Maybe not one. Maybe give it 2 or 3.
I'll tell you what I like. I like the city kickboxing guys. So I like Adesanya, obviously. I like Volkanovski. I love watching Volkanovski. I always go back and watch his old fights on Fight Pass because I think he is so well rounded, and he's kind of the style I'm trying to go after. Do you know what I mean? He's got a very good wrestling top game and takedowns, good ground and pound, but then he's also able to beat the likes of Chad Mendes, who's a good wrestler, where he couldn't use his wrestling, he used his striking. Do you know what I mean? So he's very, very well rounded and very well conditioned. He's kind of been the only person who's been able to match Holloway's output in that division. Do you know what I mean? So I really like Volkanovski. And then, do you know Brad Riddell, who's like I really like him as well. He's only had 3 fights in the UFC, but they've all been absolute belter scraps. So I like the city kickboxing gym. I think there's a lot of good fighters coming out of there. Obviously Dan Hooker as well. Do you know what I mean? So those guys, I'm really enjoying watching them at the minute.
Yeah, some good stuff coming out there. Yeah, all good picks there. Yeah, good picks. I'm liking them.
Thank you.
Yeah, lovely stuff. So, yeah, like I said, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks, man, for coming on. Appreciate your time, and looking forward to seeing you out again.
It's right. Thanks very much for having me on, mate. I've enjoyed chatting to you.
Cheers, lovely stuff. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Go on, and you, mate. Nice one.
Nice one. Take care.